It's Platt, and today I open a can of whoop ass. That's next to Platt's Beer of the Week. So, the particular beer we have today is Steve Austin's Broken Skull 316 IPA. This is the third of a series of beers that is a collaboration between professional wrestling great Stone Cold Steve Austin and El Segundo Brewing. This collaboration has been going on since 2014. The original beer was a just straightforward IPA. Then they came out with a lager. We reviewed both those, of course. And today we have the 316 IPA, which is a West Coast style IPA. Start off with a little background on Steve. Steve was born Steve Anderson in Austin, Texas, 1964. He grew up in Texas. Ended up playing linebacker and defensive end at the University of North Texas, whose alums include Mean Joe Green, Don Henley, Meatloaf, and yours truly, that's right. Boys, if you're ever in town, I know Meatloaf's not with us, but if you're ever in town, stop on by. First beer's on me, but I ain't picking up the whole tab. But that would be a funny group to walk in a foursome. Me, Steve Austin, Don Henley, and Joe Green, for sure. Steve, after he got out of college, started getting into professional wrestling. If you've seen the movie Iron Claw about the Von Erich family, they wrestled the old Sportatorium in Dallas. That's where Steve kind of got his break. He came in, unfortunately, after the boys started dying. But Steve would go on to wrestle in WCW, ECW, and WWE, where he won plenty of titles and, won great feuds and highlighted WrestleMania and all that kind of fun stuff. After Steve's wrestling career, he got into acting, did a few episodes in Nash Bridges, was in the movies Longest Yard and The Expendables, and today has his own podcast. Now for El Segundo Brewing, they were founded in 2010, of course, in El Segundo, California. The concept behind the brewery was they wanted to bring San Diego-style beer and beer culture to El Segundo, which is in the LA metropolitan area. Even though LA is the by far largest city in California, San Francisco and San Diego are by far bigger in the California beer culture scene. So they wanted to bring a little bit of that to El Segundo. El Segundo also has a place called Slice and Pint. It is a pizza restaurant / tap room. Not a lot on their website or social media. Not a lot about their background and stories. I've talked about this before on other videos. I guess if you're selling the stun of Steve Weisers, and you're not worried about it too much. Real quick, let's get into the beers. Small line, very IPA, West Coast IPA heavy. They do have a few other things though. First, we start off with Mayberry IPA, 7.2% ABV. This is classic West Coast IPA. Where you get the term Mayberry was apparently El Segundo is referred to as Mayberry by the Sea. Apparently it's a very quaint little town. Who knew? Next is Lost in the Mail, 13.2% ABV. This is a quadruple West Coast IPA. First one of those I think I've ever seen. I've seen triples, but I don't think I've seen a quad yet. Made with 5 different kind of hops. At that ABV, you're going to be pumping a ton of hops in there just to maintain some kind of balance. Next is the Citra Pale Ale, 5.5% ABV. This is just a classic hop-forward pale ale. As far as their line of beers go, this is on the more sessionable side, brewing a lot of those West Coast IPAs, and they're in the 7 and 8, so this is one of their more sessionable style beers. Lastly is Harvest Legend Rice Lager, 5% ABV. This is made with 100% California rice. I'm surprised there's not more rice beers, rice lagers out there. The ones I've had have been fairly good. I'm aware that Anheuser-Busch uses rice as an adjunct, and that kind of gives it a bad name. But if you'll buy good quality rice and use good quality rice, you can make some really nice beers with that. So I'm kind of interested in that beer. Well, before we try this particular beer, though, let's check out the stats. Okay, guys, before we jump into this beer, I thought we might do something a little fun today, or if you guys feel like it. We've tried Stone Cold's beers. The Rock has, of course, his tequila, But I can't think of any other wrestlers that have their own either beer, wine, spirits, or whatever. And you've got all kinds of celebrities now with them, or whatever. So I thought it was a fun little exercise. If any of you out there were into pro wrestling as a kid like me, or into it now, or what have you, in the comments, put your favorite pro wrestler and then what kind of alcohol you think they should have. You know, should The Undertaker have his own tequila? Should Chris Jericho have his own Canadian whiskey? Should, Becky Lynch have her own, Who's the Man beer, or whatever her thing was? Leave it in the comment section. Just thought that'd be a fun little exercise. I will give you one that I've thought about actually before. I always thought Ric Flair should have a champagne called Space Mountain. Remember, he's always talking about Space Mountain, and I know Disney owns that, but that always thought, the catch line would be, popping the cork or popping the top on Space Mountain, ba-dum-bum. Anyway, something like that. Please leave me in the comment section. Let's have a little fun with that. And with that being said, now let's drink a beer. All right, what we got there? Fairly clear beer, a little more than a finger width of white foam, plenty of bubbles. Let's go in for the nose. Ooh, yeah. Very classic, piney, West Coast kind of hops. I mean, that just hits right in the nose. Let's go ahead and try. The hops are a little more predominant on the nose than on the taste. They do kind of show up on the back end a little bit, in the aftertaste more. Nice malt sweetness up front. Not much in between. The hops kind of come in later in the aftertaste. We get a little sweetness up front. This is a nice clean beer, very drinkable. Body-wise, medium minus. We've definitely taken, it up a step from even like a blonde ale. A little more body. It's a deeper gold color. There might be some, some of your Munich malts, some other, some caramel malts in there to provide a little more malt complexity. Still fairly simple, but this is a nice drinker. 7.2% ABV. I don't know if it's crushable. I don't know if I'd be pulling the old Steve Austin thing on these, but a really nice drinkable West Coast IPA. You get the hops on the nose, you get the hops on the back end, but they won't blow you out. Low malt sweetness up front. Simple, but I think for the task asked by El Segundo, and this is created to make kind of a mass market appeal. I think they've done a pretty good job with it. I remember kind of thinking the same thing about the first Broken Skull. It's been probably a couple of years since I've tried that, so I got to kind of remember. This might have a shade more body than that beer, if I remember right. And I think that beer might have been a little lower IBA or a little lower ABV. So this might have a little more body, a little more alcohol than that one. But besides that, just kind of a straightforward beer, or straightforward West Coast IPA. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe down below. Also, please like the video because it lets YouTube know we're putting out good content. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or beers that you'd like me to try, please leave me in the comment section, or you can always contact me on the Twitter page. Till next time, bottoms up.